oh, you want to be a people manager? You need people management experience. But if you don't get people management experience, how can you be a manager? As a hiring manager, most of the time, the focus is less on whether or not someone has subject matter expertise in something. Unless the role is very technical, the bigger focus that you should be thinking about is less around which path you take in terms of do I become a subject matter expert and get super deep or more broad, and focus more on skill sets that you would learn and you would gain. And what I mean by that is as you move up in your career, it becomes less and less important on the more technical parts of the role, because that comes as an assumption that you should have somewhat of a strong technical background already. The part that will distinguish you from other candidates and help you stand out is around what a lot of people don't really think about and don't invest time in, which is your soft skills, your interpersonal skills, which are how you communicate your thoughts, how you articulate your findings, how you come up with solutions and propose that, how you influence people, how do you engage with people and stakeholders that go outside of your team, how do you drive people to make decisions, and in some cases, how do you make people do things that maybe they don't really want to, but you help them see the value and they end up doing what's right for the team or the company. So all of those that I just described are soft skills, which are things that are very, very hard to learn by reading a book. You learn that on the job. So my advice for a lot of people is focus less on the title of what something is or whether or not it's super deep in its subject matter expert kind of area, and focus more on what skills am I going to gain from this. If it's something that you're already strong at, I would say maybe it's not really worth you pursuing that, because you wouldn't be gaining a lot more beyond what you already are strong at doing. So for areas that, for example, if let's say communication is one that you really want to improve on, roles like finance business partner or things that you would engage more directly with people that would challenge you to have to be better at storytelling or articulating your thoughts, those are the types of roles that you might want to gravitate towards, because then that will give you something new that you currently maybe want to develop on. That way, over time, as you kind of have different roles, you will naturally move up if you're a strong performer, right? That will just naturally happen. And along the way, you'll be collecting all these kind of different skill sets. And over time, you'll see across your tool belt that you'll have all these different skills that you can then offer. That's kind of a way that I like to think about it, less about what specific role and more about what skills you and behaviors you would be gaining from it. Yeah, it can be a very frustrating situation, because it's, oh, you want to be a people manager? You need people management experience. But if you don't get people management experience, how can you be a manager? So I think that's a common thing that happens. I would say focus on the behavior that you want. And when I say, oh, improve your communication skills and things like that, saying no to people, that doesn't necessarily have to come from a role that is like an FVP directly working with a sales leader. It could be something that you apply in your current role. So what I did, because I came from an accounting background too, right? And I had to change people's perception of me from being a just number cruncher, just doing accounting, to a strategic finance leader. That's a big shift in behavior on my part, and a big shift in perception that I had to change people's minds about. And how I like doing that is to find out ways in my current role, because you can't change someone else's perception of you right away, and you can't change if someone doesn't want to give you the job to give you the opportunity. But what you can control is, I'm in my current role, there are so many different people that I may interact with. Those are all opportunities. So what I like to do, and what I did, was I started looking at different interactions with people that I could see myself applying this and practicing the skill of saying no, and to asking questions about, oh, well, what does this forecast update tell you, or whatever it might be. There are so many different interactions. I think the more you look for them, the more you will see, oh, I can practice it here. And it's little by little over time, even if it's during meetings, right? Forecast review meetings or whatever other project meetings that you may be in, even by you asking questions sometimes or saying, oh, I have a different thought. That's a form of saying no in a way, because someone can think this thing and then you can say, oh, that's interesting. I actually think this also. And so over time, it helps you build that confidence to feel more comfortable with, what do I really think? What is my opinion? And then you verbalize that and share it. And you'll come to find that the more you do that, one, you'll feel more confident and you'll naturally exude that kind of behavior more naturally. And people will start gravitating to you and say, oh, what a has good ideas, right? And then two, it will also equip you with the behaviors and the skills so that when you do get an interview, you can say, you know what, I haven't been a sales finance FBP, but I have done X, Y, and Z, and I've had to work with all these different people. And in those situations, I did have to say no, and I did have to influence. So that really gives a clearer picture to a hiring manager about, even though she doesn't have the exact kind of formula of you had this role, you did this before, but the fact that you can show that you did that behavior will get you through the door. That's what I've seen a lot of. If you don't have currently, if you're not part of meetings, or if you don't really find a lot of opportunities like that, you can ask your manager or other people and say, I want to learn more about what you do, or I want to join a meeting and just observe. There are so many different opportunities that you can raise your hand on and say, I just want to learn. And then that way you can start also then inserting your thoughts and your opinions into those conversations. The ones that are key, that jump out, definitely would be someone that is resilient, because things constantly are changing. So change is always going to happen, and it's a true test of someone's character and integrity and ability when things change. So I think resilience and having the ability to adapt to something new. And also, this is very hard for finance people because we like being in control and we like knowing. During environments where there's uncertainty and we don't have all the data, we don't have all the answers, how do you manage through that? That is a skill that effective leaders stand out compared to other leaders, because they're able to accept and be okay with, well, this is what we have, this is what we can do, and not really dwell on everything that we cannot do or everything that we don't know. Sometimes people fall into that trap of, oh my gosh, there's so much unknown, I don't even know where to start, right? But focusing on what you do know and navigating through that with resilience is huge. Another one would be self-awareness. Self-awareness is something that sometimes people tend to overlook when they're talking about self-development, because self-development is a lot of times sold as, oh, I want to change how someone thinks of me, or I want to change how someone views me, right? But actually self-awareness is all about, am I aware of my own behaviors and how I show up in the world? How do I want to show up? Are those two aligned? So self-awareness is another one where if you think of leaders who are very, very great at what they do and effective versus managers that may get work done, but maybe they don't do it in a very effective way, that's the difference, where there's a certain sense of maturity and self-awareness that people look for as they want to promote people. The third one that I would think of is innovative. So innovative is another one that personally is a value of mine, because as things change, it's very easy to get stuck in what we did in the past and just have that be kind of your norm. And with the world rapidly changing, it's very important for us to keep up with our own skills and to even up-level our own skills in different ways. So I like to remind people that as accountants or finance people, a lot of the manual work we do, if we're talking 10 to 15 years from now, it's probably going to be automated and, AI, and all those things. So the key is, if you have an innovative mindset, that is something that cannot yet be replaced by a robot or things as easily. So the judgment and the innovation of thinking about, oh, okay, how can I think about this in a different perspective? How can I see this in a different way? What are the other things that we may not be considering? All of those things are humanistic aspects that is very hard to replicate in a system or in a computer. So tapping into that mindset is also very important, and it helps you stand out. And a simple way to do that I like to remind people of is, as we grow up, we tend to forget to ask questions a lot of times. We tend to always think, okay, what's the answer? We needed to find the answer. Here's the answer. And then you move on. But we never stop to say, oh, I wonder what it would be like if it's this, or is there a possibility of that? And that curiosity is what will connect you to innovation a lot of times. But we're so busy constantly, we forget about that, right?
Yeah.
So something to practice more of is just take one moment to be like, okay, how do I be curious about this? How can I think almost like a child about this situation? And sometimes that will lead you to something that you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even consider that. That's an easy way to practice. And it's kind of fun too, to tap into that part of your mind.